Thanks for staying tuned. Welcome back. The discussion, of course, has continued somewhat off the screens. But Mr. Rwani, you were at the point where you said there's nobody who realistically pays 5,000 because the argument that based on 5,000, 120,000 polling units and so on, then you talk about
1.2 billion.
1.2 billion.
No.
It's not it.
The truth is that the strategy of elections and what we call a ground game is that you keep your own agents and you compromise the agents of your opponent. So who will sign the result sheet for whatever it is. So that day, if you don't spend any money, you are spending about 40 or 50K. One, to protect your agents and then buy the agents of the others. That is how elections are won in Nigeria. It's a commercial enterprise. So let's call it spade a spade.
So
you need about 10 billion naira to cover the 100
just for that expense?
Yeah, for the agents on that
so,
day.
Bibi, I see you shaking your head.
And that is precisely what it is.
Yeah.
That's what we call the ground game.
Wow.
And if you don't have a ground game, forget it. It's lights out.
Mr. Bibi, is this true? You've been there. I mean, of course, you didn't see any, inducement and so on, but, I mean, does this sound like what goes on?
To a certain degree, for some communities, especially for communities that are not... I'm being as delicate as I can.
Diplomatic.
Yes,
diplomatic.
because if the polling units that I observed, I didn't see it. That doesn't mean it did not happen. It just meant there were two of us, we go in pairs. So there was a lot of observation. They were watching us and we were watching them. There was a lot of, the statutes tell you the distance at which the agents are supposed to be by the where you vote. So the idea was that they needed to keep away from there. However, my colleagues in other areas reported that, Madamo, this thing is very hot too, Madamo, so those kinds of things. So what Mr. Rwani says is absolutely true. It actually does happen. I didn't experience it, but my colleagues have experienced it.
I thought we were supposed to be getting better at doing elections.
Look, the transactions take place before polling day.
Yes.
You've already compromised the guys before polling day. You're not going to go out there and start money changing hands in the public.
On the day of
no.
These things are more sophisticated than that. And these people
and then you will even hear on that day, they said that some people were complaining that they didn't give them rice this year.
Yes.
And that they didn't give them X, Y, Z, and so why should they're not listening again or they're not doing again. But I also know that I think, I'm not sure which election it was last year, those who observed said that they took phones into the units and when you voted, you snapped with your finger to say where you... So those sorts of things were happening. I think the reality for us, if I can just take it back to young people, our reality is that our young people are very bright. They have ambition. They have everything going for them, but unfortunately, they don't have the money. And it makes it very, very difficult to fulfill ambitions. Now, we have done quite a bit of work at a community level. And sometimes at a community level, if they want to enter local government, to get access to who is giving out the forms, or even to know what the political party's office is difficult because there are no signs. There's no notice. Do you understand? In some communities. So it makes it very difficult for them to know where the office is for the party is, for them to go and register to become a member of that party and to participate.
Candidate.
Yes. Before you now take it to the next step of saying, okay, I want to run. Then you say you want to run, but what can you do?
To help the party.
Yes. So it comes back to what Mr. Rwani said. That is actually a commercial enterprise. And so you have young people who want to participate, who come in with clean ideas, but the system is broken because they have to play ball the way the old people are playing it.
Yeah, speaking about that, I was speaking to some of the DGs of the younger parties, the newer parties that are coming in, and they said, they are moving the narrative away from money politics. And they're trying to let people know that, you know what, this rice I'm giving you now could mortgage the next 4 years. And according to them, it's working on the field. People are still expectant. But, the new narrative seems to be working. Do you see it like that?
It's working to a certain degree, but it's also not working because you're having people say, is it just talk? We're going to so see even the population are not used to issue-based politics.
Yeah.
The young people are because they are desperate for change, but the population are not. So there's a disconnect between what the young people aspire for and want, and what the general population, is it only talk, I'm hungry, stop talking. And, and let's be honest, this is not exactly an issue-based campaign.
And then even the young can sometimes say they are also hungry.
Yes, now.
There's a point. What they call the proxy price for a PVC is 5,000. Right? That's what I hear.
That's for those who are selling it.
Selling it. Now, the price of the agent cannot be the price of the PVC because the agent has a pivotal role.
Network.
And so you have a factor of 10. That's why I use the word 50K.
The 50, the other
Yeah,
time.
and that's why it goes from 1.5 billion to about 10
or 12 billion.
But that's the reality. And that's nothing. And that's one part of the...
That's on one day.
Just on one day.
Okay, let me throw it to you in Abuja, Mr. Jujola. What is the, let me say, economic impact on the average Nigerian? Because, you have a lot of statistics there to tell us. You've listened to what we're all saying. And the major thing is to try to tie in the economic impact with the campaign spending that we're seeing. So what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just, agree that the 1.2 billion I mentioned earlier was just basically a general base calculation. I think it's going to be in several tens of billions. I give you a shocking figure. In a post-2015 election conference that was organized, I think INEC and some other organizations sometime in 2015 after the elections, it was one of the presenters, they did a study and found out that over 1.5 trillion naira was spent in 2015 elections. That covers what was spent by INEC, what was spent by security, what was spent by politicians, what was spent by all stakeholders, that even by donors that brought in donor funds to support different parts of the process. So the total expenditure that hit the economy was about 1.5 trillion. And that is, that's a lot. I think when this kind of money gets into the system, it does help to some extent to, support certain industries. I mean, of course, media, printing, and people that are into T-shirts and other things, which is good. I do know that some of these funds also escape out of the country because some of the things used for elections are brought from out of the country. Then I think something we can do going forward is to ensure that everything, especially that was going to be like for the 2023 election, every expenditure made by government, I mean, we cannot force what political parties spend money on, but for the government expenditure should be done by a Nigerian company. I don't see why by now we don't have Nigerian companies that cannot competitively supply or meet all the different requirements that, for example, the Electoral Commission would need to be done. So we can get to a point where the entire budget, is used locally for our elections. I think that goes a long way. I think also something I want to make like a distinct, to maybe clarify a bit, is that part of the reason why we have seen the lull in the campaigning, apart from the uncertainties of last year, I think is because politicians are preparing to buy votes. We saw this a thing similar to this in Osun election, even in Ekiti, where we did not see the aggressive campaigns we have had before. But what we did have was people really taking time to prepare funds for the election. In Anambra 2017, I was at a particular hotel in Oka where a political party was going to have a meeting with their members, and there were hundreds of them. And we learned that they were waiting for money. And they brought this in Ghana Must Goes without any bother or fear at all. And we learned that that political party spent 9 million naira per ward. And a ward has about 10 to 15 polling units, which would give you about 700,000 to 900,000 per polling unit. And this amount was to cover the fee of the party agent, then the people they are going to bribe, and then the vote buying that they had intended. So I think this might be part of the reason why we see less campaigning and more money prepared for vote buying. So what we need to do for Saturday is to ensure, I don't think it's too late, that we forcefully prevent vote buying by making it punitive. But in the past, we have security agencies at the polling unit doing nothing. And lastly, I'll say that it's good to say that, yes, a lot of money is available for the party agents, but what we have seen, what I have observed, is that I don't know why this happens. Maybe it happens because the money does not filter down, because you know it will come from maybe the party chairman or the structures to the local government, to the ward, to the polling unit. So sometimes we found cases like in a recent election, which I will mention the name of the party, that 2 weeks after the election, the party agents at the polling units, did a protest saying that they had not yet been paid, for the work they did during the election, and they won that election. So I think that though a lot of money is spent, how much of it actually gets to the party agent at the polling unit, I think is questionable. And that is why sometimes you find that a party agent will be easily bribed by a party agent from another party who has received funding. I think we should improve on this, and hopefully we get this addressed for the elections on Saturday.
Yeah, and that is what we
Otherwise,
said in the last election.
We will be in trouble.
That will improve on it.
It's almost deja vu. So that's what we said in 2015 will improve in 2019, and now it's 2023. Hopefully we'll improve. So, Ambassador, let me ask you this as well. The question I put to him was the economic impact on the average Nigerian. Let me throw that to you as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think the impact is quite significant, yes, because much of the huge sums spent are spent within the economy here. You see a lot of T-shirts all over the place, you see billboards, you see those. But there are technological aspects, and I think that is what my colleague here is saying, which we depend on countries like China, Western countries we import. From inquiries, I understand we spend over 40 to 50% of all these sums we are talking about in foreign exchange. I don't know how much INEC spends on the production of these voting cards and the reading machines and all of that. I think that's where the money goes. Nigeria, unfortunately, is not a really high producing country. We are more of a consumerist country. And when I hear these comparisons with the United States, that's where I think we overstate it. Because even if a state is spending like $1 billion on election and campaigns within that state, practically 90% of that money is spent within the state where the campaign and the election is taking place. We cannot say the same thing here. It gets too expensive, and then it doesn't filter directly to the people. What the people get are these illicit monies, which should not be so. We should not, he was talking about vote buying. The very idea that somebody came to do his civic duty and he's being paid money. Some say they are voters' cards for 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, and all of that. That is not making a positive impact on the economy. In fact, it is creating a negative social impact on the economy because it's solidifying a mindset. It's solidifying a mindset that is not going to help Nigeria grow its democracy. And we should be leaving that kind of thinking, that the election period is a time for the citizen to make money out of government, to make money out of candidates, and to make money out of political parties.
Let me put you on pause, Ambassador. We have to take a break now. We'll continue after the break. Please stay with us.